right, another round of applause for Bong and Brett. Thank you both so very much. All right, so for those of you who are new to the Tulane Innovation Institute while they're setting up for our next panel, part of my portfolio includes the tech transfer function here at Tulane University. So all of the science that we do, and we need to protect that science when we create patents, and then they become innovations, and hopefully one day they become products. And then maybe they become a university spin-out. So a lot of what we do is to help develop technology and also founders. So we support the community, our Tulane community, as well as our local community with innovation and entrepreneur programming. And then finally, my other hat that I wear is with Tulane Ventures. So this panel is going to highlight and showcase Tulane Ventures. I am the managing director of it. I helped to build the first venture fund here at Tulane University. We back founders across Louisiana in health and medical technologies, as well as climate and energy solutions, and artificial intelligence and emerging technologies. To date, Tulane Ventures has made $1.8 million in investment over the course of the last year and a half or so. And that was made in 9 portfolio companies. We are about ready to make an announcement on 2 additional companies coming out soon to a press release near you. So we're excited about that. Our role is simple, but it's not easy. We back founders early. It's a seed stage fund. We de-risk the innovation, and we help to turn research, insight, and lived experience into real companies that grow, hopefully right here in the greater New Orleans region. Today's panel reflects that full journey. I'm pleased to welcome to the stage 2 founders who represent this next wave of innovation in Louisiana to talk about their capital raising experience, maybe some nuggets of wisdom that they can provide, and another venture leader, investment leader. So first, I'm going to welcome Jesse Lee. He is a Tulane alum that founded East Dune Holdings. This is a venture fund that brings the investor lens and what capital looks for, how risk is assessed, and what differentiates companies and which companies that they invest in. Please welcome Jesse Lee. Next up is Rahul Gopal, founder of CampusKnot. He's building a technology platform born directly from a student's pain point. So we cannot wait to hear about student pain points. And then finally, Chris Millan, a Tulane alum and founder of BekenBio. He's translating deep science into a venture-backable biotech company. So please welcome them all to the stage. All right, so this should be a lively discussion. What do you think, gentlemen?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely?
Looking forward to it.
Yep.
All right,
Sure.
well, thank you again for joining us. Just real quickly, just so everybody knows, give us the 1, maybe 2 sentence of what your company does, just to provide some context and perspective, and then we'll jump into some questions. Why don't we start with you, Chris?
Sure. My company's name is BekenBio, and we're working on
Waving
blood
to the
tests for
crowd.
early cancer detection. So the idea is to link patients that have cancer to life-saving treatment.
And you're a Tulane alum, right?
Tulane alum, yes.
Okay, and you moved back here.
That's right. So
yeah.
I started the company in San Diego, which is a mecca for biotech. You would think I would stay there. But actually, we've gotten much more traction and support in New Orleans. And being from New Orleans, it's been an amazing opportunity to come back.
Well, welcome back. We're
Thank
happy
you.
to have you. All right, Rahul.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rahul Gopal. I'm the co-founder and CEO of CampusKnot, Inc. We are an AI teaching assistant for professors designed to help them drive engagement in real time in their classrooms and track learning and give them insights about students that are struggling or how they're mastering their concepts. And that's essentially what we do.
Well, thank you for being here. So BekenBio and CampusKnot are 2 of Tulane Ventures portfolio companies. And last but not least, Jesse Lee, tell us what you do.
Yeah, I'm Jesse Lee, my mother and I started an early stage venture fund out of New York City, and we focus on consumer goods, but we don't have, we do everything. But, and yeah, we focus on seed and pre-seed, and we lead rounds, and we look at everything, yeah.
So when did you graduate?
I graduated in 2021.
2021.
And
That's
we had already,
not so long ago,
no,
right?
yeah, and we had already been doing some angel investing here and there, and then
Yeah.
we kind of, being in New York and having access to that network and the venture scene there, we were seeing a lot of really interesting deals, and so we kind of decided to formalize a vehicle, and it's been really cool.
Oh, well, we're excited to have you on
Yeah,
board.
thank you,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So let's start with Rahul's origin story. I'd love to hear about that student pain point, but make it quick.
I'll try to pack a decade worth of things in a quick. Well, so we started off at Mississippi State University with two other friends of mine and I. One of my co-founders came home, and he was like, he needs notes. He has a test tomorrow, and he has no idea how to get that because he's not very, he's not a social person. And that's where it sort of everything started, and from there we have evolved into bringing in the professor in the game, and then going through a couple of pivots. And in 2021 is when we truly kind of found who we were, our identity, and from there on out, we started seeing growth and stability in terms of what we are trying to do.
So I know you've loved every moment of the last 10 years of your life, right? Tell us how much money have you raised to date, and how many customers do you have?
So we've raised around 2.3 million in private investment and about 750 in non-dilutive funding. We have done about a little over $2 million in revenue to date over the past 4 years. And what was the last part of the question?
I asked you how many customers you have.
Yeah, and we have about close to about 150 professors under our belt with about 20,000 students across 30, 40 universities annually using our platform. So yeah, that's where
And
we're
it's
at.
just getting better, right?
Oh, wait, we're just getting started. So this is barely scratching the surface. So we're looking forward, very excited to what's about to come.
So Chris, biotech is tough, right? Along regulatory pathways, lots going on there. Talk to us a little about how you are prioritizing the things that you're doing as a founder that's pre-revenue, right?
Right. I think that's one of the tough things is when you talk about a startup, it's when you get revenue, that's when we'll come in and invest. And for a biotech, that might not be for years. So the most important thing for us is to generate real clinical data to show that the things that we're working on actually will help someone in the future. And the earlier you can do that, the better, even if it's with a minimal number of samples, a minimal number of patients. As soon as you have that, you can really leverage that into a lot of traction.
So any lessons learned about that and raising capital?
Many lessons learned. I will say that I think in biotech more than in other fields, it's very important to land one of these SBIR grants or STTR grants or any kind of non-dilutive funding, just because it's so expensive to get to a point where you've, like I said, you've shown your product has some value in the clinic. And it took me 3 tries to get my first SBIR grant, so that's 3 times of writing the grant, submitting it, getting feedback, working on it again, and kind of realizing that early stage means something different too. So you kind of feel like, oh, we're early stage, we have some data, but it's not quite enough to land this grant and to work on building a bigger data set to finally get to a point where you're venture backable.
Yeah, that's a conversation we had in our recent board meeting, that biotech needs additional data to become investable. So for the audience and those that may not know what SBI or STTR, you want to just real quick explain that?
That's probably the most common non-dilutive funding in the US. It's the federal government, each branch gives out these small business and innovative research grants to startups, or at least they used to.
They funded it. It's back. Yes.
Just in the last week,
goodness.
they brought it back online.
Yeah.
And so for us, we're looking at NIH or NSF, and you put together this large grant proposal, and the idea is for them to fund something that is high risk, but high reward. And it is a tremendous amount of non-dilutive funding. And then I would also say there's a lot of side support in terms of just customer discovery that they put you through.
Yeah.
And I think really in biotech, it's almost essential to go through that process.
So just quick for the audience, how much money have you raised to date, and where are you at in the development of your technology?
Yeah, we closed our seed round, 850,000 in December, with Tulane Ventures participating. And then non-dilutive with SBIR and other grants, we're up to 750,000, and we're waiting with this recent reauthorization of the program for our phase 2 SBIR, which would be 1.25 million.
Excellent. The Tulane Innovation Institute helps to support SBIR, STTR. One of the challenges is that a lot of the scientific grant writing that faculty and students do, they're not completely sure how to develop a commercialization plan. So we help to support that at the Innovation Institute. So if you need help with that, you let us know. All right, Jesse,
Yes.
talk to us about why you decided to do East Dune Holdings when you graduated, and tell us a little bit about what size of investments you make and how you decide on
Right.
a good investment
Yeah.
versus a bad one.
So it kind of incubated as just being in New York and having friends.
It helps to have friends in right places,
Yeah,
right?
having friends, starting to create these companies, also work at these firms, and they have really good deal flow. And we had infrastructure set up at a family office where we could make some of these earlier stage, smaller check size bets. And my mom on the side had been doing angel investing, so I thought it made sense to kind of formalize something. And we're looking at like pre-seed to seed. We've done later rounds like Series A.
Size, what's
Size, I mean, we've done anywhere from like 50 to $1 million
Good.
or more. Yeah. And we also can get creative with our funding. So loans, like PIK loans, not just classic venture equity funding. We do everything. So yeah, and the way we are very like founder focused, because you have to be at such an when you're looking at early stage companies. And
So the team matters a lot.
yeah, the
in your
team,
decision.
yeah, it matters. It's the most important thing for us, and seeing if we can kind of align with the vision and the mission of the founder, and if there's big tailwinds in the industry, and it could kind of there's a real clear path to encompass all that and make it work.
Have you loved what you're doing?
Yeah, I love it. I really love it. Just seeing all these new businesses, new ideas all the time. It's such an amazing time to build a startup. It's a low barrier to entry. So seeing so many cool ideas all the time, it's definitely stimulating.
Excellent. All right. Rahul, you get the next question. So we're looking at potential first founders in the room today, and you've been very reflective with us in our calls. And I would love for you to share that, what do they need to understand to get credibility? A lot of times young founders don't necessarily have the kind of credibility with investors. They haven't exited a company yet. How do they get that experience? All the things that are friction points. Anything that you would share that helped you to get to a point where you could raise capital?
Yeah, well, very rarely a startup at an early stage goes the way you planned it, right? But my advice, and this is from a lived experience, so don't do what we did, because what we did was learned it the hard way, and that costed us 4 to 5 years of, like Elon Musk says, eating glass and staring in the abyss. So it was a series of experimentations to figure out what not to do. And my advice to early stage founders would be this: stay as close as you can to the problem for as long as you can to figure out what ought to be your business and not what you want it to be. Okay? And once you figure that out, everything else gets expedited because it's that phase where early stage founders try to, accelerate it. We want the big wins. We want to go after the bigger, contracts and so on and so forth. Try to get the little ones. Try to get the little wins, as many as you can, because that's what creates momentum. And once you get that momentum, you get the confidence, you get the KPIs, you get the crux of what you ought to be. And then raising capital is fairly easy because investors see that in you. It shows in your voice, it shows in that confidence, it shows in every single decision that you would make.
Thank you for that. Chris, so going back to biotech, or spanning the biotech here, and thinking about raising capital and some of the challenges that are nuanced for biotech companies. Talk to us a little bit about advice you would give if you are in a health and science field. What's most important going to talk to these investors in terms of, is it data? What is it? Is it something compelling about your revenue model? Is it LOIs? What is it that really tips the scale, particularly in getting a lead investor? Because that is probably the most challenging.
Yeah, I think it depends on the stage. So I think, our very first investor was a family friend that I met at my uncle's barbecue. And I think, in Mandeville, and I think...
So we know he's a barbecue eater, but does he know anything about biotech?
No.
No.
And that's my point. I think I made the mistake early on to talk too much about data and technology and what I'm working on in the lab. And I think sometimes that goes a little bit over early investors' heads. And I think when I was able to kind of anchor it in something a little bit more emotional, it turned out that he had lost his father to cancer. He was, eager to invest in something that might help someone else down the line with, a similar disease. And I think that was very helpful at the very beginning. And then I would say later on, to find that lead investor for our seed round, it was much more about data at that point. Much more about like having that SBIR grant, executing those milestones and generating that data. And really the most important data, I'll keep coming back to it, is just showing that you have some clinical viability. So it's kind of two different things. When you tell the story to someone that might not be well-versed in medicine or science, it's different than someone that's gonna, skewer you on every data point that you present.
So when you went through the Tulane Ventures due diligence process, you had a little hiccup.
I did, yes. It was a long process. I would say Tulane Ventures wasn't the largest check, but it was definitely the highest hurdle that we had to climb. And I mean, I think there were a couple of hiccups, but one really was that we were putting together, like a syndicated round with other investors, and it was hard to line up the timeline for everyone. And it got to a point where I had been promised an investment, but it just, from one of the people that ended up investing, but it just took, I would say, an extra, 6 to 7 months to get to the point.
Or maybe longer.
To get to
and
a
it
point.
wasn't
Yeah.
Tulane Ventures.
It was not. But, I think that was one of the more stressful moments raising, was kind of coordinating. I think I had multiple days where I was calling everybody that was participating in the round saying, I think we're there, I think we got it. And we finally pulled it together.
Yeah, that was a little stressful. I remember those days, but I'm so happy that we made the investment and everything worked out the way it should. But that was also in the process of you coming here, moving back to New Orleans, right?
That's right. We had opened the lab at NOBIC at the New Orleans Bioinnovation Center. And, you open the lab, you have to start paying rent, you have to start employing people, and, we kind
And you needed our money.
You need money, exactly.
All right, we're going to go back to Jesse for a moment here. Jesse, we kind of touched on, how you make investments, but I kind of want to peel back the layers a little bit. And, at Tulane Ventures, we're pretty thorough about our due diligence process. Maybe if there are folks out there that need funding, tell us a little bit about your process and kind of what you think about when you're looking at your deals.
Right. Well, so again, it's definitely starts with the founder, and if off the bat, if I feel the connection there, and then we're trying to look at sectors that have big tailwinds, like for example, wellness. Right now, I've been seeing a lot of wellness deals like pass through my desk. So yeah, and then
Do you get a lot of recommendations from people
that's
you
what
know?
I was going to say. So throughout the ecosystem, I maybe will know a couple friends here who work at these funds who have been looking, or they've been speaking to other family offices or things like that. And it helps to have a stronger cap table. I know that's easier said than done in the beginning, but that will also help us, explore the possibility of an investment when you can bounce off ideas of similar-minded people who are looking at similar deals.
So I notice here, so the New Orleans ecosystem, I think we have 9 funds in the region to date, and it's a very relational business. And so do you find that also in New York City?
Yes, definitely. But I think what's so great about having like the Innovation Institute here in Tulane and the Tulane Venture Fund is using as having Tulane in that network, reach back to cities like New York and other places. It's a great kind of jumping off point.
So starting here,
Starting here, going there,
syndicating in New York
and being
City.
able to come back here.
You
Yeah.
heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so we have a few more minutes because we'd love to, if there are questions from the audience, we'd love to take a question or two. So be thinking if you have one. So advice. We've got founders in the room. We have people that support founders, mentors in the room. Is there anything that really helped you on your journey? A mentor, Bong and Brett talked about mentoring, and that's something that is really important to us at the Tulane Innovation Institute. We actually have 109 mentors made up of people that are Tulane affiliated. They could be parents or graduates, alums, or folks in the local ecosystem. Would love to explore a moment or an individual that made an impact and why you think that might be important to the group that we have here today. Chris?
Sure, yeah, I can go first. I think one thing that has always impressed me since I've started this journey is how everyone that you speak to is ready to help. I'm just coming from the Venture Summit, which is downtown right now, and we talk to a lot of people that are just like, as soon as you tell them your story, they're going through their Rolodex. Like, who can I introduce you to? You need to talk to this person. Let me link you up to that person. And I think, the journey started for me way back when I was in undergrad, and I had the opportunity to spend some time in a lab at MIT that's very famous for startups, the Langer Lab. And already there, like this guy, Bob Langer, if you don't know him, look him up. He's got a huge Wikipedia page.
He's literally a rock star.
He really is. And I was an undergrad spending 3 months in his lab, and he took the time to talk to me. And, I reached out to him actually years later to say, hey, can I come? You have a special piece of equipment I need to use. And continually opening doors. It's just, you never know. So just talk to as many people as you possibly can that you think might be able to help or might know somebody that could help.
Yeah, we live in such a social, connected world. It's really great to have activities like this where people meet face to face and can make those connections that you're talking about. So I love that advice. Jesse, how about you?
Yeah, I would say it's kind of cliche, but not giving up. Like the amount of times I've seen with companies we've invested in where we think this could be, a real problem where we're having trouble getting funding, some kind of bridge funding, and but if you're able to get through just one more challenge and get to the other side of that, then a ton of other doors can open magically. So just getting through that really tough time, having uncomfortable conversations with current investors, and kind of saying, maybe going back to people, and we really need to just, get this 100,000 here to focus, and then we can get through, and then more doors open after that. And I've seen it many times. If you just stay afloat, you know, and you don't burn cash like crazy, that and you stick around, then it becomes easier.
So one thing we know is, I'll just kind of pull on a thread that you were just talking about, is that investors are people, right? And they love to learn about what it is that you're working on. And so the more that you participate and have conversations with them, what's that pit bull saying? Ask for advice, get money twice. That's it. Where, you know, it's, you know, you have conversations and you become familiar with who they are and what they're excited about and what their terms are. You're not a stranger, and a lot of times they do want to see people develop, and maybe your business model isn't quite de-risked to the point that it needs to be, but you're working through that, and that rigor is actually what investors want to see. They want to see that you're taking their advice and that you're pivoting accordingly and you're doing the things to ensure that you're de-risking what you're doing, right? And so that's kind of, I think, you know, part of what investors are looking at. And so again, building community around this is super important, because you have to understand the language, you have to understand the advice that they're giving, and you know, more times than not, they will open the doors to their Rolodex and help you to succeed, particularly if they're Tulane alum, because that's our motto, right? We want to see people do their very best in the world. So Rahul, any advice, mentoring, anything?
Yeah, so Chris has already touched on the, you know, asking for help, and literally don't shy away from asking for help. People will try to help you, connect you. If they themselves can, then they will, you know, make sure that you're connected with somebody who can. And for us, it's only been 2 years here in New Orleans, and we started off with Village X. And the kind of mentors that we got, those 4 months during the cohort, changed everything for us in terms of how we operate, in terms of what we track, in terms of how we behave. And right after that, it opened doors for, you know, for me to be able to raise this recent round. So mentorship is exceptionally important, and following that advice is even more so. But in terms of not giving up, one of the things that talks a lot, you know, that says the story about CampusKnot, for us at least, is the long-term persistence, is not giving up and hanging on to those little wins. And what we realized is the devil's usually in the details. So we had 10 professors for 5 years who would use our platform semester after semester after semester, and instead of focusing on why they are using our platform, we actually went and tried to do a whole bunch of other things. And come 2021, we had to take a hard look at ourselves in the mirror, saying, it's now or never. And when we actually looked at what they were doing, we had 20 features and they were using 3 of those. And we rebuilt the entire company around those 3 features. And voila, all of a sudden you have your identity, you have your business model, you have your, you know, messaging, you have everything, you have all the clarity that you need, and all of a sudden you start seeing growth. So yeah, hang on to those little wins, go focus on the little wins rather than the larger ones, and hang in there. Don't give up.
All right, so I think the 3 of you epitomize resilience, and you know, you are a part of our ecosystem here in New Orleans, and obviously a part of Tulane's innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystem. So we're super proud of the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And your contribution to resilience and success. Not only do I know you're doing it for yourself, you're doing it for others, because you're creating economic opportunity. And for those of you out there that are representing economic development organizations, retaining and retention is really important to us here in New Orleans. And Rahul and Chris both are from outside and came back to New Orleans, to this ecosystem. And so I think that says a lot about who you are and what we're doing here in the city of New Orleans. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you all so very
you.
much for being a part of our
Thank you.
panel.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.